Hello, everyone. I'm Professor Geek. Welcome back to the channel. And welcome to what's going to be another, I'm calling it an art analysis. People tend to like these videos. I did a little bit of it at the beginning of my black and white review or analysis of RT Bear's comic of the cover. And people liked it. People were saying they wanted some more of it. So we'll see how well it does. But here's a little bit more. Anyway, now when I say art analysis, I don't mean analysis of the composition of the art in terms of like, I'm not going to talk to you about here's the vanishing point. I might say something about the compositional triangle here and there if it's relevant. I'm not an artist though. That's something I still like to learn more of myself. What I'm talking about is reading a piece of art, kind of in the same way you do analysis of a film, the mise en scene, looking at what's in the shot, and stuff like that. So reading a piece of art in terms of what it's trying to tell us about the story, about the character, are there references? And I think this is something that fans of these stories would do well to spend a little more time on instead of just throwing open that cover and just jumping right into the story. If there was an artistic slant to the cover, then it's probably trying to say something about the characters or some fun artistic way, that's expressing a unique thing about the characters. So I've got 3 covers here that we're going to look at very briefly. We're not going to go too deep, but I want to choose the first cover here is one that is longtime fans of my channel will remember that I did an analysis of Steve Rude's cover of A World's Finest, where you had Batman and Superman on a rooftop, and there was a source of light, in each one, but one was in the nighttime, one was in the daytime, and so forth. This piece here, it's not an exact homage to that cover, but it's playing on some of the same themes. So let me pull it up here. This is a Jimenez variant cover for Super Sons, back when Super Sons was still worth reading, back when DC Comics was still worth reading. And I really liked the run of Super Sons. I like the idea of it. I'm not a Damian Wayne fan. I can't stand the little brat, honestly. I hate that he even exists, to be quite honest. I know some people are like crazy diehard Damian Wayne fans. I'm just not. But the Super Sons comic was one that actually made me appreciate the character. I mean, just at least in context of the Super Sons, I actually enjoyed him. He wasn't as much of a brat and a jerk. And I don't know, I like the interplay between a young Jonathan Kent and a young Damian Wayne. And in a lot of ways, what Super Sons was about that same theme that's there for Batman and Superman, and that they are 2 sides of the same coin. They're both trying to fight and show the light, but Superman's a daytime hero. He's pointing you to the light. He's pointing you to be a better person and towards a better tomorrow. He's in the city of tomorrow. That's what Metropolis is called, and so forth. Whereas Batman is the Dark Knight. He's often pictured like a gargoyle. He's the one, as Batgirl so famously said in Carl Kessel's run, he's the one in the darkness, fighting the darkness, showing you the light. He's shining the light into the darkness. He's not evil Punisher or vigilante just beating up people out of anger and psychosis. He's somebody who's trying to bring justice into a night world that's completely devoid of it. So in that sense, they are very much both symbols, both different sides of the same coin, and so forth. And I think Jimenez really does a great job with this cover showing that. The cool thing about this cover is that there's no hard and fast boundary in the middle. There's no boundary line like a border, and then both characters stay on their side of the boundary. As you can see, on the one hand, they're both kind of bleeding over into the other side. Jonathan Kent's right hand, Superboy's right hand, and then Robin's elbow. So they're kind of blending over into the other side. Is it? But it's not the same image. It's not the same setting. There is an idea that this is Jonathan Kent, a snapshot from the daytime, whereas we have Robin is sort of a snapshot from the night side. And it's a really interesting composition there, because the way they're matched up and balanced, we do have the compositional triangle going up to Robin's head and down, to Jonathan Kent, but it links the 2 characters in terms of the colors that they have in common. Their suits have different colors in the green and the blue, but the suits are linked in the red and yellow, and then a little of the black around the borders, right? And so you see that the way these characters meet, they meet with the red and yellow, the line of sight there, and then that black around the border. And I've always thought that was interesting about their costumes anyway, that they look like they're sort of heroes emerging. Jonathan Kent, for example, that's a Superman jacket he's wearing. Yeah, he's wearing a cape, but it's not too far just from a outfit somebody might walk down the street wearing. With Robin, little bit more elaborate, but he's also got these laces on his shoes. It just looks a little bit more like an actual, outfit somebody might wear. It's not the uniquely designed Superman or Batman outfit, costume, uniform, so to speak. So it's interesting that they're children emerging into their heroism. They're learning how to do it and whatnot, and learning how to operate as a team. The two sides are also linked by the light. Now, you see the moon behind Robin, which is again a perfect symbol of Robin and this Robin anyway, Damian Wayne, Batman's son, being in the shadow of his father, trying to do the same thing, or at least that's the legacy that he's being given, is to shine that light into the darkness, much like the moon. Whereas you have Jonathan Kent, I don't know if this is supposed to be the sun glaring off of a building window or something like that, but he's flying right up into it. He's in a pose that we often see Superman in, hands up, looking up it's up to the future, looking up to the sun, looking up to forward, onward, and upward, so to speak. And that's the message of Superman, leading up into the light. So we have that great dichotomy there. Again, I'm not going too deep with any of these three. I'm just kind of giving a surface level, because you can go much farther in and pick out a lot of the little elements. What's the significance of this? And by significance, I'm not asking you to dig too deep, but things were put there for a reason. Why does Batman or Robin have the bat grappling? He doesn't need to have a batarang with a rope necessarily connected to it, but he does. Why is that there? Because if Jonathan Kent has the S shield on his chest, the actual symbol of his father, at least we've got the bat symbol of Robin's father. So great. I mean, the fact that they're on a hotel, again, just a lot of things in there. Not everything's going to necessarily mean something, and a lot of these things don't even have to be things that Jimenez thought of to put in it, but they made it in it. They made it in the composition, and if they're there and they play into the cultural significance of the heroes and the stories, you can draw these things out. So that's the Super Sons cover. Again, I'm not going to belabor the point, but I wanted to talk about it a little bit. Next up here, I have a variant cover of Cyberfrog. I think this was a variant cover of Cyberfrog Wrecked Planet, I think, or it might be from book 3. I don't know. I can't remember just off the top of my head, but it's a variant cover here. And as you see, by Ethan Van Sciver, we have Cyberfrog standing on the carcass of a Vespis. And in the story, Wrecked Planet, he does fight this Vespis. As they're fighting, I think it might even be at the end of Blood Honey. Anyway, he pulls the sting off of the Vespis. And as he's standing there, it's interesting, the blocking, the composition, the way that Ethan has him standing, because he's standing there as though he's coming down a hill a little bit, but he's standing on the carcass of the Vespis there. You see the Vespis's dead face, glaring up, the defeated face of the Vespis glaring up. Now that wing behind Cyberfrog is the wing of the wasp Vespis, this alien wasp, this Vespis thing, or whatever they are, hornets, but these aliens, and that's the wing right there. But the way the wing is positioned, it's right behind Trickron, Cyberfrog there. So it's almost like it could be his wing. No, it's not. It's the Vespa's wing, but it's positioned there for a reason, because we have, now think about that. What is the reference here? You have a hero who's slain the opponent holding the weapon in his hand, a sharp weapon in his hand, and he's got this seemingly big, large wing off of his back. Well, the reference is of archangels, specifically Michael the Archangel slaying Lucifer. There's a famous painting that's often seen, but there's also, you can just see a bunch of different versions of this idea. It's not just this one, but this is probably one of the more famous icons or images of Saint Michael slaying Satan, Saint Michael hurling Satan from heaven. It's from the Bible. And in this story, you've got emissary of the ultimate good, Archangel Michael from God, the ultimate good, defeating the ultimate evil, Satan. So a lot of times when you see a piece of art that kind of reflects this idea or goes on this reference a little bit, it's because the story is about a defeat of the ultimate evil. And the Vespas, they are the ultimate evil. I mean, you read that story, the things they do to humanity, it's hard to imagine something more evil than that. But you have here Satan, the face, the defeated face of Satan. You have the Archangel Michael's kind of stepping on him, but stepping down off of him, foot on the defeated with the sword. And once again, here you have Cyberfrog with the seemingly angel wing behind him, even though it's the Vespa's wing. It's just made to look like that. And his shoulder fins are sitting off his shoulders in the same manner. And he's holding the sting as though it was St. Michael's sword. and so forth, stepping on the Vespas, and you see that there. It's great. You see Salamandroid's face in the background as though it's another one of the choirs of angels, so to speak, but it's a great image. So when you see that kind of imagery, again, you're dealing with a slaying of the ultimate evil. Sometimes you'll see Superman, a lot of images where Superman's fighting somebody in flight. He'll have that. I mean, you can see the posing there of Michael in this image. And again, there are a lot of other renditions of St. Michael slaying Satan or battling Satan and whatnot. So again, that same kind of imagery. A lot of times you'll see it in Green Lantern, Superman, characters like that fly, Iron Man even sometimes. But it depends on the story, depends on who they're fighting. It's just some references there. Even if the artist doesn't know, I'm sure Ethan Van Sciver had to know that this is what he was doing. I mean, with that little placement of the wing right there, I'm sure he was playing into this idea, this reference a little bit. But even if an artist isn't necessarily trying to reference, let's say, Michael the Archangel necessarily fighting Satan, that's still the tradition. If they have enough elements of this concept in the art, that's still the tradition that they're playing into, the winged emissary of good defeating or conquering the ultimate evil. So that's a second one. Again, we're not going too deeply into these. The last one I'll cover is a piece by Graham Nolan, and I don't believe this might have been from his there was a Bane run that he and Chuck Dixon did, which was really quite good, that they were able to do not too long ago, believe it or not. But this is a common composition or common types of poses that you'll see from a lot of different characters. We've seen Batman fight Killer Croc in this type of pose. It's pretty common. And the idea behind this type of pose, instead of the ultimate winged good, the emissary of ultimate good defeating the ultimate evil, in this type of picture, you have the struggle between man and beast, man and monster, a greater evil that's seemingly too much for mankind, but you have a hero of mankind out there able to combat it, able to fight it, right? So Bane, for example, this augmented human, a great monstrous evil mastermind, as well as brute force strength, quite malicious. And then you have Batman, who is, of course, famous for being just a human being, freaking amazing human being, but he's not super powered, right? The tradition that we're seeing here is a common tradition of art. And the idea here is what is, if you look in history of storytelling, the ultimate story of man versus monstrous beast, a great evil beast trying to overcome the great evil beast, really is the story of Theseus slaying the Minotaur. And this is from Greek mythology. This is in the Hall of King Minos. The Minotaur, of course, there's a whole story. I won't go into the whole story. But the key thing to know about Theseus is that there's some idea that he's some sort of demigodish-like character, but he's not a character like his cousin Heracles. He doesn't have superpowers. In fact, one of the strains of the story talks about how he was a shorter man in stature than a lot of the other opponents he would have to fight. So he developed the art of wrestling and grappling and using the gravity of his opponent to try to flip them and stuff like that. That's one of the many stories that were told about him back in the day. So it's very much of a Batman-like. You can kind of trace that idea of Batman back to a human, more human character without a lot of great extraordinary abilities. How does he survive in a world where he uses the human potential that he has and he perfects it and so forth? And he's pitted against this great monstrous being, the Minotaur. It's very much like Batman pitted against Killer Croc, or pitted against Bane, as we see in that image. And just some other images here of Theseus and the Minotaur. And, it's common when you have a character who's a smaller type character and he's facing a monstrous, villain, that you do want the art should show the villain kind of overpowering him, so that you can see the struggle. What's the great challenge that there is at this character? This hero really has to overcome this. You want to show the tension, you want to show the issue there. But so that's commonly done. And even if the artist isn't necessarily thinking Theseus and the Minotaur or David and Goliath, that's still the tradition that they're working in. So I can't say for sure. I'll show you one more image of this is a more of a modern artist take on Theseus and the Minotaur, but it's a good one again. And then I'll go back to Graham Nolan's here. So you see that again, the overpowering monster and the man doing the best he can with those tools, or his body, trying to fight or whatever. And again, going back to Graham Nolan's art, I don't know that Graham Nolan was thinking Theseus and the Minotaur of this painting, maybe not, but he's playing into that tradition. He's playing into that tradition. It's really neat to have that swatch of red over on Batman's side. It helps with the color, it breaks up a little bit of the background there, but it also, you could, read that as well, the blood of humanity there, because we see it in the red of Bane's eyes. Otherwise, the red is just the background on Batman's side. So you could pull into that as well. A lot of meaning and whatever. Great balance of color, great balance of characters. The two figures, the way they're balancing each other in the sheet. There's tension, there's struggle in the composition, but it also plays into the story of these characters, which again, traditionally in storytelling, goes all the way back to Theseus and the Minotaur, if not earlier, I'm sure, in different ways. But it's just the strains of Western culture storytelling. I've taken a different angle on each of these three different pieces of art. But again, just the idea of reading them. You're just taking a few moments, even if you're not going to spend hours to pull every little piece of meaning out. You're reading a comic book or even looking through an art book, pause, take a moment to, on the one hand, yeah, appreciate how they put the pieces in there and composed it. But what is the art saying about the characters? Because comic book art in particular is part of the storytelling. It's not just the text. It's not just the caption boxes, the narration, or the dialogue. The art is telling the story as well. And the art, if the artist is a talented artist and knows what they're doing, they can tell the story more through the sequence of action. They can tell the story by what they portray visually. It's the same thing as a film. The real story of a film isn't just what the characters are saying, it's how they're portrayed. What angles are we looking at? What lighting are we looking at? That kind of thing. So, it's a good habit to get into, of starting to look at art like that, especially comic book art, which is very much a storytelling medium. So just a quick video on reading art. That's all I got for you right now. I'll be back with some more of these things if people like it. And you can look forward to more of the usual content, more of the podcast episodes, more of the comic book analyses. But until next time, keep enjoying and digging deeper into the artwork of heroes that you love. Thanks for watching.